Greetings, fine people of the universe and beyond. It is your main man, the classy Hoosier. Elegant white trash, the classy Hoosier, if you will. And today we are talking my service time in Okinawa, Japan. And let me preface that by saying, if you didn't go to Oki in the Marines, you weren't even in the Marines, you know? Where were you? I know where I was. So, I got a ghost in the kitchen. Whoa. So anyway, I get out of supply school in Camp Johnson as a 3051. I was an open contract guy. I was in the delayed entry program before 9/11. And then all of a sudden, 9/11 hits. Next thing you know, I'm in the Marines. That's kind of how it happened. So, excuse me. So, get out of Camp Johnson, learn how to count to 12, learn how to move a box like this. This is how you move a box, doo-dah. So, upon checking out, I'm like, hey, what can get me to Iraq fastest? Because I'm like, man, I'm coming from this, I'm coming from Marine combat training in Camp Pendleton. I'm coming from a pretty super intense, what I consider a super intense training schedule. I didn't change my underwear for the last week at MCT. I was a road guard and I had to stand fire watch because I didn't shine my boots in the last week. It stunk. But yeah, I freaking, TMI, whatever. But yeah, I didn't change my underwear for the last week I was in there. It was crazy. And got over it and passed all the tests, yada, yada. So you're coming from this super intense thing, and then you get sent to Camp Johnson where it's duh, what is this? Is this even a job? It's kind of like Pauly Shore in the Army now. What is this? Anyway, come to find out, they needed numbers there. And that's where my test scores put me. I'm not that smart, so you learned how to count to 12, and there was no jumping MOSs. Once they had your numbers, they had your numbers. So upon leaving, I'm like, I want to get out of the States. I don't want to go to Iraq to do something, I don't want to get my kill over in Iraq and I want to go to Iraq to have a story, I want to, hey, this would be an interesting story to go because that's how I've always been. So, and I later went to Iraq, yada, yada. So I tell the admin guy, I'm like, hey, what would put me in Iraq quickest? And he's like, oh yeah, it's you either put East Coast upon completion of supply school, East Coast, West Coast. And I had gotten the tour of the East Coast and I was like, I got it. It's too much like St. Louis. So, yeah, Camp Johnson, that whole area, is too much rural St. Louis County or something. I don't want to be any part of this. This just looks bad. So anyway, East Coast, West Coast, overseas. And I was like, you think if I put overseas, I would maybe get to Iraq quicker because that's what I'm trying to do. The war had not broken out yet. It broke out in 2003 while I was about halfway through my year in Okinawa. So it had not broken out yet. And he's like, oh yeah, well, if you're already overseas, maybe they'll just send the overseas people. They don't know till they watch the news either what's going on. Nobody does. So put overseas and then they're like, hey, and this is to educate any of you young people going in there. Don't follow. Think for yourself. I'm joining the Marines to get away from home because there's a bunch of negative influences because I'm not strong enough to say no and walk away from things. And I got to take responsibility for some of the dumb stuff I was doing as a late adolescent and stuff like that. So I needed a swift kick in the butt. I probably still do in some aspects. So pick overseas. He goes, you're going to want to take 30 days of leave before you go. Little did I know that the 30 days of leave, I'm like, are you sure, man? 30 days of leave? A month? I'm not trying to be at home for a month. He's like, you're going to want to take that 30 days of leave. Pretty much how he told me, exactly like how I'm telling you. Sign the paper, 30 days of leave, I guess that. Well, they do that so that you are in the hole. Leave. 30 days is a year in the military. You are now, after you sign that paper, you are 30 days in the hole. Once you're on Oki, you can't go nowhere. They got you. They got you. That's where they get you. So, 30 days of leave. I said that a million times already. I'm just thinking out loud. Get to Okinawa. And I'm like, what is going on here? My daily task, you check into the unit. We are in a warehouse, and it's like engine parts. And I am on Camp Kinza, Nate. And it's kind of near Naha City. We're in kind of like an urban area. And a lot of training goes up with the infantry and the LAV and the artillery guys. All that goes up in the more rural areas up north, like Camp Hansen was my daily run. So I would run like transmissions. You had to get like license. So I had a Humvee license. You had to run transmissions. I had to drive like a 3-ton. I think it was a 3-ton. It was an international stick shift. It was big, and it had the big gates on the back and big fence on the back and stuff like that. And then some days for like the smaller stuff, I would take this thing called the Gopher, which was like this little stick shift Mitsubishi thing. You see them all over Japan. My big grievance with that was none of my higher ups held my hand. They didn't coach me on, you do take an A driver. You do take one of those with you. But they didn't coach me on like, this is how you drive in Japan. And upon showing up, you get like a week-long acclimatization, kind of, I don't even know if that's a word. You get like a course upon hitting the island on how to conduct yourself, on the, like with the locals, with the Japanese people, and like how to act, and customs and courtesies is what they give you for the island. So, which doesn't really help, So one of my big grievances is we had a master sergeant in there that had never left Okinawa but to be a recruiter on Coronado. Like, who is joining the military on Coronado? He was married to a Filipino woman, and I do believe buy me, drink me, because that's what a lot of those dudes are married to there, that stay there and stick around. So, and all he did was drink Coke all day and smoke cigarettes. Like, this dude was used to driving on the island and wouldn't lower himself or take him out of the desk. He wouldn't take himself out of the AC to go help a young troop navigate the island and, learn how to drive, because I never really had any issues like running locals off the road or anything like that. But you're in big American vehicles in a foreign country that are all like these little compact cars, like a different brand of Honda. It's like little bitty Hondas and stuff like that. So you could run into some bad situations, And when I wasn't doing that, they would play games with us, like sweeping the warehouse. So like I said, you graduate MCT, you're coming from this like high level of training, and then all of a sudden you're sweeping like, I don't know what it is, that kind of like floor cleaner, like that wood chip type stuff in a warehouse like this all day. And you're like, I thought I'd join the Marines. Like, what's up? And a lot of these higher ups within, my little shop, they had been there. They kept re-upping for Okinawa. So then the war breaks out, and all those people that got real comfortable collecting that freaking COLA, BAH for being married, the overseas pay or whatever it is, all those people got nervous because they thought they were actually going to have to do something. Meanwhile, I'm just like, hey, they did this thing called stop loss, where people that were trying to leave the island couldn't. People that were coming up on their EAS, which EAS is like time to leave, they held them on the island. it was kind of chaotic. A lot of drinking, too. Like, you're in like a 120 degree warehouse, and I don't care. People can call people pogues, whatever you want to call people. You're in a 120 degree warehouse all day, not playing in the woods. You ain't playing shoot 'em up. It's miserable. It is not fun. That sun is just baking on you, and it stinks. One thing I did over there, I did not have a forklift license. I had the Humvee, I had like the 3-ton, and I had like a license. I had this little paper to drive on the island. You also get like I had to hit toll roads. It's like an hour and 15-minute drive to Hanson from Kinzer. So we had to have like a little card for the toll roads as well. Like, you just get to pass your official business, yada yada. So there's nobody in the shop that I can find. Like, I am looking for somebody with a forklift license. I can't find anybody in the shop at this time. Well, they got this TMO guy outside. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm the guy to freaking do this. Like, all right, I'm not familiar. This was like a LAV engine, I do believe. And it was like a wooden box. It came out of TMO. TMO is like an expediting type force or whatever. And they take like a civilian driver with them. They had a Japanese dude driving the truck. And then they had a Marine that I signed all the paperwork with. And we're pulling off this brand new LAV engine. It is up against... They have loaded this. They packed this thing in like a sardine. It is up against the cab of the truck like this. Long box. It was almost as if it kind of reminded me of maybe like putting a brick in a shoebox, if you can understand that. Get the forks to go pick up the box. Get it out. It's using the counterweight. It flipping teeters off of the freaking back of the truck. What's that Marine doing? He's sitting there laughing at me. So, like, the leadership is just all over the place. People are, doing the AC. They're drinking Cokes on the freaking back bay. Like, people are in there actually trying to work and get this thing moving. So, drops. Commanding General is driving by. And, like, I kind of remember it in a freaking Royale. But he does not stop. Next thing you know, the sergeant is right there, like, picking up the thing. Let's get this inside, blah, blah, blah. I didn't get charged with it. The corporal that was in charge of me got charged with, like, dereliction of duty, but nothing really happened to him that bad. Like, it was just a slap on the wrist. I think he got a page 11. And this was one of them church dudes. More church than being in the military. That's a big thing over there. You know what I mean? These little cultist scams that they have going, oh yeah, church guy when you get out of here, bunch of weirdos. So that was one incident that I had. I had an alcohol related incident. So like I can drive these trucks and stuff like that, but as an E3 and below, you cannot drive a POV, a personal vehicle over there, which is good. I'm glad. I was too young and stupid to be driving a personal vehicle over there. You have to sign out with somebody. So you're basically just signing out with another goon like yourself, some other idiot that couldn't make it in society. I had alcoholic parents. I was a freaking follower. And, I drank. AB has a big footprint here in St. Louis. Everybody was a part of AB, drinking and stuff like that. It's ingrained in our society here in St. Louis. I was, water brained from alcohol anyway, but hey, I quit, now I'm just stupid. But you are subject to sign out with an E3 and below if you want to leave the base. So you sign out with Beavis and you go. So we went up to Kadena. I had already had my nose broken from a week before. 2 black eyes. They battering rammed me up against a brick wall, nose first, civilian contractor and a Marine. I did not drop. I still kept on. I still kept throwing. You know what I mean? I think I had the civilian contractor by his hair at a certain point. And I was probably acting drunk over there too. I mean, you elevate the levels because you don't have to drive and there's not much responsibility. And I also think like us spending money out on town is kind of one hand washing the other. All those bases are leased, you know, so it's the peasant class is in the bars spending money, feeding the other peasant class over in Okinawa. And it's just, I don't really think we're over there for some strategic thing. You know, I think we're over there to spend money and create revenue for Japan and kind of have this whole two-way street going. But anyway, I had my nose broken from the week before. So I had 2 black eyes, and my buddy Bernal wants to go meet up with this girl in Kadena. So we're dancing, whatever, and I'm making up stories. I'm saying I got hit with a round. Like, I got 2 black eyes, and I'm out on town just acting a fool. Like, yeah, as you can see, my nose is kind of... So Bernal gets into it with this dude. I take one swing at the dude, and then it's over. Like, nothing else happens. We get sent to kind of like a holding cell on Camp Kadena, the air base over there. End up getting like a page 11, end up getting like non-wrecked, and like, it was stupid. I had, just before I left, I led somebody down the wrong path, and I apologize for it. You know, like, this dude, Yokley, had showed up to our unit. He was a young dude, and like, I was getting ready to leave Okinawa, and we went out drinking all day, and freaking at the pool. I think we were at Kadena's pool drinking. Nobody's kicking it at Kadena's pool either. I was like, this is like the coolest thing in the world. If we had this on the Marine base, we'd be kicking it at it. We did have one on the Marine base, but like, I did do swimming and I lifted weights a lot over there and stuff like that. So there were some positive things. So, but mostly negative, you know, like as far as the drinking, and I wasn't strong enough to not drink. You know, I was, every social thing that we had going on there had alcohol. So Yokley and I go out, we're drinking all day. We end up at Fujiyama's, which was like kind of like the rock and roll bar. They had like Japanese locals that would play like rock music, punk music and stuff like that. And we would just go in there a while. I flung some freaking yakisoba. You know, you got a whole generation watching Jackass. Like, I flung yakisoba, sauce, whatever that little cup is that you buy the little meat sticks out of. And it got all over Yokley. We're done with the night. Give each other high fives. It was an awesome night. We drank all day or whatever. We get back to the base, and we're both slumped, passed out in the cab. Nobody's pissing themselves or anything like that. Nobody's fighting. Nobody's got, you know, broken nose, nothing. And PMO, which is, you know, military police, they go, hey, who beat this guy up? Well, my dumbass put that freaking yakisoba sauce on him, and they thought that we got in a fight. Yokley's 20 years old. I'm 21. So they get us both out of the vehicle, and they're like, you guys are plastered. We're going to go ahead and write this up or whatever. And I had like a page 11 for it or something like that. I think I got out of Okinawa with like 2 page 11s. I had some sort of article something in a page 11, office hours or something. But I got that for contributing to a minor because he was 20 and I was 21, and there's no drinking age in Okinawa, Japan. So it's like, how do you police that? I guess it lies on the person. And then also, when you got a leash on you all day and you're in 120 degree freaking, that's what it feels like. I don't know if it's 120, but at times that warehouse, cortisol levels, you know, you're walking all over the base. You're walking from the barracks to the chow hall to your shop. You're running on top of it. We used to have to run 5 miles every Monday morning. So you're cooked, you know, you want to break free from that on top of like room inspection, CGI. I remember CGI over there. I got freaking kind of like snickered at or said something. Commanding general inspection is what what that's called, and he sends his little cronies into your barracks living facility to see what's going on. So I got kind of like chastised for not having a cap on my toothpaste. It's kind of like, see. Another story I like to say is a bunch of people got caught eating mushrooms over there. Like 8 people from like H&S. And I do believe that you could buy mushrooms, which is, you don't think that in Japan. You think you're going to jail. Like, if you're buying any type of drug other than alcohol, you think you're getting in trouble in Japan. But just before I got in there, I think they had these kind of like little smart shops, like in Amsterdam, or like pseudo pharmacies or something like that, where you could buy magic mushrooms out of there. And people bought mushrooms. Like, I knew people that ate mushrooms in Okinawa, Japan. I never did it. I was scared. Like, they had me shook. So, or like if I was all boogered up off mushrooms, like somebody would report it. It's a small world. So like, the story I get, and this is a story I get from one of the dudes that got in trouble. His name was Baker. He was from Detroit. Shout out to Baker. I know for a fact you wouldn't be mad at me if I said this, because you had a good attitude and you didn't care. So like, this dude is having marital problems. The wife goes to the chaplain. There's another thing. Take note. Don't be filling the chaplain in on something that you're going through. Deal with it. Deal with it and don't do nothing wrong. Don't do nothing in what is perceived wrong in the eyes of the Marines. So this is here to educate so that you're not following. So 8 people got kicked out aside. It might have been, I guess, maybe 7. Aside from one female who I saw later in Camp Pendleton, 22 area, because she didn't take the bait. She goes, nah, I didn't eat no mushrooms. What are you talking about? They played like good cop. This woman goes to the chaplain, the wife, the dependent, goes to the chaplain and says, hey, my husband's been going out of time buying mushrooms. And who knows if that was like to burn her husband in some sort of way. We're all young, yada, yada. He, in turn, says, oh, yeah, I know 8 other people. Well, they like to do that whole comforting. Those higher-ups know how to play you. I think that's like they maybe go through like psychiatric courses to play the youth. You know, like whatever those staff's courses are. Yeah, this is how you get them to admit stuff. So from the chaplain, 7 people get in trouble, and the one female does not, because she didn't own it. And I guess they couldn't, piss them for it, because how are you going to get somebody in trouble for it? So I ended up paying for my own ticket off of the island through this program called Secures Travel. So I didn't just I wanted a date to get up out of there, because it was chaos. It was becoming too much. So if you get sent to Okinawa, just bite your time. I am bad for being a young, stupid, drunk person and not experiencing more of the island, of what the island had to offer. Don't go in the hole for 30 days. More historic stuff I should have seen, things of that nature. You know what I mean? Experience the culture. If you're going to go sign out with somebody, don't sign out with somebody like me that wanted to drink and it's crazy, spring break, whatever. But like I said, it's a culture, and you're dealing with being on a leash for freaking, however many hours a Marine day is. You can do nothing for the 6 days. You get 1 day to go out, and you're going to get crazy. Another story, maybe this is kind of a funny one, and I'll leave you with this one. My roommate is from New York. He had reached the limit on payday of what he could take out. So he bought a home entertainment system. He bought, he was going to take his girlfriend out too, because he was in that little detachment that we had that fell under us on Hanson, where I would drop off the engine parts and stuff like that. Hey, what's up, Harpin? How you doing, man? So like he had spent a bunch of money that day and freaking got into it with his girlfriend. He wants to take his girlfriend. He was extending on the island to be with his girlfriend. And so fast forward, he is down like by Naha, southern part of the island. I think Hanson was north. They would consider that north. I'd have to look at it on a map. So he runs out of money. He can't withdraw any more money out of the freaking thing. So he catches a cab. No, this is where he does. So he gets into it with his girlfriend, catches a cab back to Hanson from way south after getting into it with his girlfriend. And he cannot pay the cabbie the money because he can't withdraw any more money, and he's reached his limit on his card for the day. He spent, X amount of what he was supposed to be spending. And end up kicking the cab the whole bit. And, he ended up getting, restriction and all this other type of stuff. But I think he got hit and was acting a lot more humble than I was. I was still not hit good enough to freaking stop acting a fool. My other buddy, I said that I got in that fight with on Kadena. He was at Tropical Beach. And he was on one. It was like a Sunday. And I was out there. I saw him that day. He freaking ended up hitting 6 cars with like a cooler. I think he damaged 6 cars. He was swinging a cooler around and freaking put big old dents in the locals' cars. Like, he didn't own up to it. He gets brought down to like Naha precinct. This is the Japanese officials. This is the Japanese police. And he told me that they questioned him on his knees till he admitted. And, there's logbooks in all of this. You're getting logged in every time you go in and off the base. At this point, there's probably cameras all over the place. The freaking cabbies probably know who you are, Like, hey, I took these people here at this time. It's a small island. It's an island. They're going to find what you did. So, questioned him on his knees till he ended up having to pay restitution for those vehicles that he damaged and, had to say sorry. They ended up making him, live at the battalion. It was full-on lockdown. I mean, I had to go to alcohol classes over there, but, he had to live at the battalion. Something my command did as to not bash them too bad. I signed up to buy a car outside of whatever it is, the PX, APHIS, and it was kind of like they find a car in the States, but then you're almost kind of responsible for transporting that car. So you may have to catch a flight to Minnesota, get the car that they selected for you, and there's kind of maybe a cheaper rate. Well, I ended up giving this dude $1,200 or something and being like, hey, I want this vehicle, I want this Jeep, and again, auto dependence. Pretty much why I was in the Marines, getting in trouble behind the wheel. Walk, ride a bike, take the bus, get a train. So I told my command, I'm like, this dude's kind of messing around with me because he's not really getting what I had selected. And this is at the PX. There's a car salesman in the PX in Okinawa, Japan. And my command did go back. I will say that. They bossed up and freaking went and got me my check back. And we're like, hey, and they were like, hey, stupid, don't be freaking buying a car until you get back to the States or whatever you got, So anyway, those are just a couple stories of Okinawa, Japan. Just respect the locals, respect Japanese traditions, be nice over there. And I was in Korea for a little bit over there too. So Okinawa, Japan, you weren't even in the Marines unless you was in Okinawa, Japan. Peace. Just a couple quick corrections. I do believe I was driving a 1-ton stick shift international U.S. style over in Okinawa, which was, I at one time gotten the freaking engines loaded, teetering on one side, and I was doing 2-wheel motion all the way back to freaking Naha. And then I guess as far as me putting overseas after MOS school what would put me to war the fastest, because it had not technically broken out with Iraq or whomever it was that they were saying was responsible for 9/11. So, yeah, what would put me to war fastest is what my logic was with the admin that was checking me out. So anyway, those are my two things. And here's a couple pictures from me being over there. Peace, and have a good rest of the winter, because it stinks over here in St. Louis. Peace.